Hey gamers! Is there a job class that excels at eating pizza, drinking coffee, buying way more games than one could possibly play in multiple lifetimes, and looking damn good while doing it? Because that's me, Jason.
Is absolutely not you.
Shut up. You shut your mouth.
I'm the class that does the most damage, but always seems to go last. Guest speaker KBash show.
And I'm the red mage stay-at-home cat dad multi-class who rounds out your party, throws some fireballs, and heals by petting cats. It's me, Patrick. Welcome to RPGaymer Season 3, Episode 2, a podcast about jobs and classes and RPGs. Gamers, we are back for another episode. You may have noticed in our introduction today, we have a special guest. And
Patrick, I'm here every episode. What are you talking about?
I said special.
Oh, special guest. Okay.
Jason, how very dare you? This guest is very important to me because, and he's heard this a million times already in our pre-meetings, but he's one of the reasons why I decided to quit my job and do this thing that I'm doing, this podcast. So KBash, welcome to our show. Thank you so much for
thanks for being
a part of this. We are so thrilled to have you.
I have to disclaimer. I am not responsible for any misery that might befall anyone on account. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. No, but thank you so much for having me on your show. Love to be here. I love getting out and talking to human beings instead of sitting in my room all day. That's all.
I just want to give everyone a little chance to get to know a little bit more about you. Like, how long have you been doing this, buddy? Because it's been a while, right?
Oh, geez. I've been doing YouTube for 6 years. Well, and I've only been doing it seriously for about the past 3, because that's when I opened a Patreon, and that's when it was legitimate. Because before that, it wasn't tenable for a lived existence. But we're making it work. We're grinding in the YouTube fields, and I'm glad that it got out to you, because that makes me happy that people see my work. That's all.
You have one of those fancy YouTube award things too, don't you?
Ooh.
Wait, no, there's no camera. There's no camera.
No, I want to see it. I want to see it.
Yeah, I'll still show it.
Whoa!
That is the goals right there.
Goals. Yeah, there you go.
Oh.
I would love it to have one of those someday. But yeah, congrats for that, because that's that has to be. I'm sure you do this because you want to, and this is what you like doing. You get joy out of it. But having something like that, feel like really just boosts it all.
Kind of brings it together. People like me,
right?
Yeah.
It's really easy to get cynical about awards, because dudes I don't know, some popular YouTuber who's starting a second channel for fun will pop off one of them in a month or 3. But when you get it and you hold it and you cry bit, because it's been years in the making, it means something more than you'd expect. That's all I will say.
What was the starting of this like for you? What was the beginning? What got Baby Bash going? Baby K.
Oh, wait, what inspired me for real?
Yeah.
I was finishing school, university, and before heading into teachers college, and I was really depressed because I felt like I wasn't doing anything with my life. I wasn't putting myself out there. I wasn't writing, and I was in writing class. I just needed to put something into the world. So after 2 years teachers college, and then I went to Korea for a bit, and that's where I was doing my scripts, I came back and finally started YouTube. And I failed for a long time, but we eventually got somewhere. But that's a whole story. Yeah.
I get what you mean in the sense of you can make a mark as a teacher. It's just kind of that mark that no one really sees.
Yeah.
Aside from the students that you're making the impression on, and that can be great, but sometimes it's nice to physically see things that you have done.
Yes.
And that's that kind of what you get out of doing these videos. You can physically see all of it.
Like teaching, because we have similar backgrounds, if anyone in the audience is not aware, but the good I got out of teaching was so minute compared to, because I would put in so much of myself, and it feels genuinely like a struggle. So many people, students, don't want you there anyway, or don't care if you're this or that to them, but some do, and some resonate. And a lot of teachers have told me those are who you're teaching for is the one. But I mean, I think that's a bit of a leading concept. But I will say YouTube has been more rewarding ultimately.
Yeah, the toxic positivity in education in any way that they can manipulate you to try to get you to keep doing your job sucks. I mean, and I agree. Like the only thing that really kept me around was the kids because I could connect to a lot of them, but then I was just like, okay, but I don't like being a teacher. I just like helping teenagers get better. You know what I mean? It wasn't even about teaching at that point. I mean, I enjoyed it, but I mean, like you're right. Like there's only so much that you can get out of it. So what I also want to know is what keeps you going in this venture that you're doing.
People ask me this all the time because like I upload like a demon, like compared to other like scripted YouTubers. Because a lot of people, you know, shuffle out smaller amounts of stuff or what like lower editing stuff. Mine is like fairly.
Well, yeah,
elaborate.
you're a quality over quantity guy. I would say, right? Like you have
which is preferred. Yeah.
Videos. Yeah, I prefer it.
Thank you. But literally what keeps me going is like necessity to be like, I always sound like awful and weird, but like, the crushing reality around me. Like if I stop spinning the plates, it gets like not as good. So I might as well keep spinning them. Like, you know, I don't know, but I keep strong through it because I don't know. I believe in duty and like, you know, doing stuff. I'm a married individual. I have obligations. So like, it's not even about me at this point. It kind of is, but not as much.
Making that money, honey.
Yeah, that sounds horrible, but it's like the true answer. So,
I mean, I appreciate the non-bullshit answer. So that is totally fine.
I can appreciate that too. I think like I don't do YouTube that much, but I do like to write about games on blogging or on my blog, and it's fun when you have a creative outlet and you can keep going and like you get the bug and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna do this, and then later on you're like, oh, I have life responsibilities. But then you come back and you're like, yeah, I can still do this. It's such a great feeling to do that.
For sure. And I will say that's not for a lack of love for what I do, by the way, because some people have interpreted it like that. I've actually only like learned to love what I do in games more and gain more curiosity than I ever had in the past, which thank God for that, because otherwise I probably wouldn't be doing it. You know?
What drew me to you is that passion that you have for gaming and taking the analysis to the next level, where there are a lot of YouTubers who can't get past just really scratching the surface of gaming and kind of being clickbaity. But for you, it really like it's kind of what Jason and I like to do here. We really like to talk games because they're just so powerful in our society and they have so much more merit than people give them credit for. So like that's why I love your content, because like you're doing the damn thing with those discussions for sure.
Bless you. Thank you for that. I hope, and I'm trying trying to get better all the time.
Well, speaking of game discussions, let's and how this is our job, if you will, cringe editing, might keep in, might toss out, who knows. We're here to talk about jobs and classes today in video games, and I think this is mostly RPGs, but not only RPGs. What I want to know, just to start us out, why do you think that jobs and classes, we're probably going to say it a million different ways, classes and jobs, employment of characters, why do you think it's so important in gaming?
Well, jobs and classes aren't a big deal, Patrick. They're in every game. No, I'm kidding. I think that's actually the reason.
So it depends, kind of.
It depends. I feel like jobs and classes, especially if we're talking in RPGs, are in like everything. And I think that's why it's such a big deal, is maybe we've moved from a time earlier in, I don't know, NES era, early 90s to right now where they're just so ingrained that you don't even know you're getting them. And you also don't even know that you're probably following a similar path down, like why you like them. And it's typically coming from games that would give you some sort of like character buy-in, like you can make your character how you want, or you're going to follow this specific path because of comfort reasons. And that's like the basis of entire games or entire genres. And that's why you play. You see number go up and you like that, and you gain new skills, and you like being able to, I don't know, tame beasts as a beast master, and that's like unique to that game, and so you enjoy doing it. It's kind of like why you play. Honestly, it's probably why I started playing RPGs when I was growing up. I think it was just cool and fun. Like you weren't just Link in Legend of Zelda, which is great, but you could be, this specific paladin in this game, or you could be like a beastmaster.
Yeah, Jason, because Legends of Zelda isn't an RPG.
Well, yeah, but you get what I'm saying though. Like, he's still a sword wielder, and it's like, okay, this is what he's doing. But in this Final Fantasy, I'm sure we'll talk about 5
you're
at
so
some point.
stupid.
Yeah, right, exactly. But then you can get your own character, your own feeling behind it. You feel like you have buy-in. You feel like you're doing something and not just following a script from the game, but you're making the game as you go.
If I can follow up, because I think I like that answer, by the way. I think it broadly ties into the like larger discussion, I guess, of how do I say this? Avatar selection in video games. I've played a lot of fighting games in my time, and
same.
Yeah, and you like will gravitate to this or that because you like it. For what? Like, people have ridiculous myriad answers to that question. Like, I like the girl because she exposes her rear. Or I like this guy because he has a mace. And it's like, that's there, because I've heard everything at this point. I almost made an essay on it. And I will one day.
You should.
Yeah. But
I'm already intrigued.
But like, seriously, there's like an element of investment and pride that you bring to the classes you pick. And it, depending on the game, right? If it's an SRPG, like a team-based thing, that's an expression of character or personality, or mastery even. Like, there's a lot of investment or the self that goes into these things.
I'm with you there, and honestly, you just like really opened my eyes on some things, especially when you compared it to fighting games, because Jason's the one who really got me into fighting games in college, and that kind of dissipated after we graduated. But I was really attached to Sakura in Street Fighter, and it was, I mean, obviously for me, it's not because she's wearing a short skirt schoolgirl, it's nothing to do with that. It's because she's very underdog.
Yeah, she kicks ass
in her approach. And I was thinking, like, I really like underdog characters in RPGs, and I really like underdog classes in RPGs. Like, I like those classes that you can't necessarily it's not easy, it's not easy to be this class and you just obliterate everything. You really have to work for it or find their niche. So I thought that was really, I was like, whoa. And that's exactly why we asked you to be on here.
Did it.
On a base level, I think, they really just add that variety that you guys are talking about. Like, classes and jobs really let you do your own personal play style. And in some cases, I think people they're such a big deal because they let you find your own way of breaking the game.
Yes.
And I think we see
favorite
that
pastime of mine.
We see that in a lot of newer RPGs. Definitely looking at you, Square Enix, on that one. But like, I think that is also, you're not this boxed in character on a track. You get to kind of make the experience your own in that way, and in some capacity it really is just finding that tactic that lets you just steamroll in any capacity that you want to. There are so many reasons. Like, there honestly are so many reasons why they're such a big deal, and we're starting to see them everywhere. But personally, I think that one of the first places we really saw it, aside from Dungeons and Dragons, I think where it was done best first was Final Fantasy V.
Okay.
And I think the reason why, we think about Dungeons and Dragons and what it is now, versus what it was, and there wasn't really a lot of leeway into your builds or forgiveness. It's kind of like, once you made choices, like, you were stuck with those choices. But Final Fantasy V, you definitely could experiment. It was the first, like, even the Final Fantasies before that, like Final Fantasy 1, Final Fantasy 3, like, sure, you could change your class, but you weren't getting really to make this Frankenstein character
customization.
So do you guys think that, like, Final Fantasy V really deserves this credit of the first, or do you think there's another game?
I'm always so hesitant to call like firsts on stuff, only because I don't have the full picture. So it's because I'm just the
cancel him. He's canceled.
so it's hard to say. But what I think because I do like FF5 quite a lot, and what I think I want to call out here that I love about it specifically is that it like pulls away from D&D in a lot of ways, because you're not like locked into those classes. You don't have to make those choices, and like, they're not permanent. And some people would call that bad because this is not like appropriate role playing. Like, there is no weight to swapping from like a mystic or this or that to paladin. But that's like also a very gamist or like gamey concept. The fact that you can just like select and choose and like alter. There's like a great amount of whimsy in like video games as a medium. as opposed to something like tabletop, where like I think it's actually really appropriate. And it keeps you having fun. You can experiment. There's a lot of stuff you can do. You know what I mean?
It kind of like lets your ADH brain go wild, because I mean, like, you know, when you're doing something like D&D, you don't have the time. It's more about the experience. But here, you know,
Yeah.
you're here, you are sitting down playing your game. It's kind of what's keeping you. But Jason, I'm sorry, I cut you off.
You're good, dude. I kind of feel like KBash, you might have just stolen my notes, because that's almost the exact same thing I was going to say. Because I feel like with like, yeah, the first thing, I do think a lot of the basis of what we're going to talk about today, like whether we like it or not, is going to be based on D&D. I think that's where like a lot of your class archetypes come from. But I do appreciate that you talked about like gamifying and using the video game medium to change what would normally be not okay for like RPG classes, and that's like on the fly just changing it, because this is a different medium, this is how you can do it, and we should be kind of instantly gratified to some extent in like what we can do with our jobs and classes. And it's a video game, like we want to have fun with it. So 5 is a good factor for that. Personally, I would point to what I played around the same time ish was Final Fantasy Tactics had a lot of those job classes too, and same idea though, it was the same thing, and it was just so neat to get that sort of customization. And bringing it back to D&D, it's not the same stuff. Like, yeah, you have warriors, paladins, all that stuff, but you have what, freaking calculators and like other classes that have nothing to do with like D&D classes, and it can just play towards whatever you find most fun. And I love that.
I think it's funny. I feel like you're thinking from a Western centric perspective there, Jason, because you're saying that they came out around the same time, but like
they really didn't. Yeah,
they really didn't. It's just the fact that like we got 5 after we got Tactics, but you know, like the from a design perspective, that was still happening in Japan, and I know you know that, but like it's funny when we think about it, because the first time we truly got that was Tactics. You know, we didn't really have that before, so you know, like Final Fantasy 1 was pretty much the closest thing,
at least that I can think of. FFT is a masterpiece, though. Like, my God.
Yeah, that's a good game.
I feel like we're gonna talk about that more in this episode.
Oh, so we got to.
I think 5's kind of divisive, and I think I'll open up more about that in the discussion as we go. I do think it deserves its merit, because I mean, we have a lot of games that have really based off of what 5 did, and like that's the core gameplay. I mean, like if you look at Bravely Default is basically Final Fantasy.
Basically 5.
Yeah, it's basically Final Fantasy 5, and like where right before Final Fantasy changed into something else, like that's it. But I also think it caused a lot of issues, but I don't want to talk about the issues and get into that yet, but I will heavily.
So I think we all kind of agree that 5 is pretty great, or around that time. Other games have done it well, but earlier than that, what did jobs and classes look like? I mean, we mentioned D&D, KBash, I'm happy you brought that up as kind of a founding basis. But how did that start in the early games? What were those games like, and kind of how do they feel job and class wise?
Like flat and linear in some games, where, you know, and I don't mean necessarily that that's a bad thing, but there wasn't really much progression. Like if you think of Final Fantasy or old Fire Emblem games, it was very much like, this is the class that you are, and there's not really much of a diversion. Or the games were very much like character centric, and the character fit something that we would know as a class role, but it was more focused on the character than it was a class. So like Lunar Silver Star Story, Lufia, Super Mario RPG, you have these characters in the game where you could be like, oh, that's the healer, oh, that's the red mage. They're still fitting those like class tropes that we know, but it really is more about the character, where I don't think that's the same now. I think now it is there's a lot more wiggle room, even if it is a character based class, you know, like where, oh, now all of a sudden we can build out this character in this RPG, so that way they feel a little bit more customized. Like Dragon Quest 11, you know, you do have your characters that more orient towards the healer or the warrior, but like we could have more like a more versatile warrior.
There's more than one of them.
Yeah, there's more than one. There's more than one play style for it, and we didn't see that in older games.
I think that's kind of like where Final Fantasy. I'm gonna end up piggybacking off of like your points, because you've laid it out so well. But
I'm so smart.
But like it feels like that was the diverging point. Final Fantasy, broadly speaking, as a means to differentiate itself from Dragon Quest. I think you might have seen my notes,
Mm.
but Dragon Quest, I want to go back as like the first game is like, what even is that guy? He's literally just the hero, and he has no like real, like, you don't plug in anything to him, but fine. That was like an early game. But you get to 2, and now there are class roles where we have the warrior, then we have the mage, and then we have like the Prince of Cannock in the middle, the green boy.
So
who, like,
he's like the cleric.
yeah, no, he's
He's like a weird class.
He's supposed to be like this middle. He can do melee, but he can also do spells, but he sucks roundly at all of them. At least,
yes.
And so it's like to a point where it's like they were going for something. They had an idea of what he was, but they didn't like design it that like with that deep intention that you see nowadays, where like everything is built on mountains of like game design, of I don't even know, just a history of games, where it's like that we would never get Cannock today or Prince of Cannock today, because it's like, no, it smells. That's all I'm saying.
He does smell. I feel like as we've done these podcasts, I realized that what I like to talk about sometimes is game design, and I'm glad you brought it up too. And I do think that just design in general, from, I know we're talking about NES era, so that time has evolved immensely to now. And so I think giving players options just wasn't a thing back then. Like, you were trying to tell a story, you don't want power creep or something to happen where the game becomes broken or unplayable. So you can't do things like Skyrim, where it like develops in such a way that you play it. I mean, I guess Final Fantasy 2 tried that. But like you're trying to sculpt your story, and you have these classes that fit, and maybe the class fits into the story, and the player can't change that because that's who the hero is, and like that's how it was, and that's like what we accepted for a long time. But I think as it went on later and later, people just needed the next new hit of dopamine, and we needed like something else to make it better. And so, you know, character, class, and creation kind of became the next thing.
Okay, I to stick on this point also, I want to like, because it's not just JRPGs. I don't want to overly privilege FF and Dragon Quest for this era. The early era, like, granted, still Square Enix, but like
the irony is that we have done a Final Fantasy episode, and this season we were doing a Dragon Quest episode. But you know, it's fine.
It's as it goes.
Fine.
But like looking at Seiken Densetsu 1 is really funny, because like if you've played it, or what do we call it in the West? Final Fantasy Adventure? Is that what it was called?
Adventure or Legend. One of them. Yeah.
So that
it's
game,
Adventure.
It has no like distinct classes really. You're still just a guy with all these weapons, but you have to plug points into like 4 little bars. But it doesn't matter which one you plug points into, you will end up equally overpowered by the end, basically, if you level up all through the game, because like you just round out, you just spam super moves, you have the highest damage. It's just it's such a weird, like, they attempted, but they didn't really know what they were designing for, I guess. So
well, it's still a skill-based game too, which kind of changes it, because you know
True.
You're not on a track getting hit, sitting there waiting to get hit. You know, you at least have the element of skill to make it a little different.
Yeah, that dexterity.
Yeah,
that 8-bit dexterity, bro. Oh man.
Do you guys feel like the inclusion of this is kind of getting stale? Like, we're seeing it trickle into non-RPGs some,
Call of
but
Duty.
I would say, like, specifically in RPGs, do you think that this is getting old?
I don't really think so. I feel like it's so ingrained, like you can't really remove jobs and classes from RPGs. It's just always going to be there. I think what might be getting old is like the predetermined, you're gonna be a paladin, for example, in a game.
Okay.
Like that's kind of old. I think that there's so many skill trees and sphere grids and all this jazz that's gonna like make things more unique to you. So maybe you'll start out as like a squire, quotation marks, and then you can like build off from there. But I feel like in terms of staleness, it's probably coming from what is old, unless you're going for nostalgia, like Bravely, like you were saying earlier. But for like a new game, I think you're probably going to be more open to like jobs and classes confirmed and defined as you want them to be.
The thing about like why that I don't think they can even get stale is because the human brain is like wired to accept them the way that phone games like trick people with gambling addictions or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I think the human brain adores categories too much, and like putting people in things, like putting labels on stuff, where it's like it just triggers the neurons, and you're like, oh man, I can have a warrior and a maid. It's just like, or like there's cross pollination. I have a mage archer, and it's like, whoa, like it speaks to something very human, I think.
This sounds like Patrick's experience with the Etrian Odyssey series.
We'll get
like,
there. I don't want to talk about it because I'm not ready.
It's all good.
I get what you're saying, and like for better or worse, like labels have a purpose.
Yeah.
And I mean, like sometimes it's worse, and we don't need to talk about the worst, but labels are also familiarity, like you said. So
Yeah.
just to know, like I'm playing a game where it's not Final Fantasy, and yet I'm seeing the words Dark Knight, and that gives me instant
Mm.
like connection to something else that I already know. So
Actually,
I'm with you right there.
Patrick, now that you bring that up, you reminded me too. We're playing Outward right now, streaming, which has been
Yeah,
great. Super fun RPG. And like Patrick has played it, so he's kind of like mentoring me as we're going through it again.
it's like
And
it's a survival RPG. I mean, like it's kind of action RPG. It's
yeah,
almost like
and
Dark Souls, but not quite.
there's no like level up. You just kind of like learn as you go and like get better gear and stuff. And like the first thing that happened was my weapon was the like a pole arm, like a halberd. Halberd. There you go. And so from that, I already gathered like what will my build be, and so I immediately knew when Patrick was like, "Do you want to take this one or the plate mail armor?" And I'm like, "Well, this attacks slowly. I need the plate mail." So like I'm already like putting myself into the category.
Yeah.
And I think it's because it's familiar. Like I know what to expect. If I had no idea and that was my first game, I'd be like, "Sure, let's do this," and then I would learn as we go.
Mm.
But like we're all cool people here. We've played many RPGs, so I know what to expect already. And like that familiarity is kind of cool. Like I feel like I'm at an advantage knowing like this already.
But
Yeah.
at least in that game, it's not a job. You are creating that class
Yeah,
because
I'm creating it.
everyone is a blank slate in that game.
hmm
You know, like
But like
I
if there was no option, like and everyone was just blank, it would be hella boring. So like being able to know what you want to do and like I will fight in the back and I will like poke from a distance with big damage, but I'm slow. Like yeah, I'm tanking, and that's
but I mean, in
what I
that
do.
sense, like you get to choose what you want to be. It's
Yeah,
almost like Dark Souls, where like, yeah, maybe you start out as a class, but really you just take your build however you want to. It's really about like what you have. Where you know there are the games where, for better or worse, it almost feels like development wise, they're just checking a box. Like, look, we have job classes. You know, it's not like these are recent entries, but I'm
yeah.
gonna like bring it up just to kind of illustrate my point. But you know, Dragon Quest 6 and 7, in some capacity, those were the games where they tried to be more open, like Final Fantasy 5 with being more experimental with their job classes and whatnot, from 3, but it didn't work in those games. Like 6 and 7 are not the greatest Dragon Quest titles,
Mm,
because they didn't push it far enough. It almost was like, oh, everyone else is starting to do it, so we're going to start doing it too.
uh,
And I feel like we didn't really see it in like Dragon Quest 11. We just talked about how you are a predefined class, but there is that wiggle room for some diversity within that class. So they kind of dropped it. Uh, so I think and even in 8, the same thing. I think in some ways, if it doesn't fit the natural progression of a game or a game series, you just shouldn't have it.
Fair. That's an extensive answer. I can feel that.
Heavy, yes.
'Cause it
This
is
is
weird.
law.
Like, because I mean, I don't want to build off it anymore, and you probably already said it, and like I'm whiffing it right now. But because like you play Demon Souls or something, like the original Dark Souls, right?
Hmm.
Pick up that game, and it's like, here's all these classes, you have to pick one. There is no functional reason to hand that to the player, except there is one piece of utility, which is to give them a starting loadout and a look,
Hmm.
mhm.
so they fit
Mhm.
into the world and they have a. But otherwise, like stripped to numbers, it's almost worthless. It's just kind of, it's really interesting, except the like class that has like no stats or whatever, like this or that.
That's
Like,
that's the class I always end up picking when I play like Elden Ring or any of
fair.
the Souls games, and because I feel like if I choose those starting classes, I'm like pigeonholed into a certain build, and the
Yeah.
whole part of those games is kind of like figuring it out as you go and getting these new exciting things. And how am I supposed to know what stats I need for what sword? Or, you know, like later on and find out, oh, what, this is a faith-based sword? What the
Yeah.
so it's almost like you said, it's almost purposeless aside from just giving you something at the very beginning, so you're not like just getting your ass handed to you. Hey gamers, it's me, Patrick. I wanted to take a quick second to tell you about Anchor by Spotify. It's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. As a matter of fact, making RPGaymer would be much more difficult without Anchor. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone, tablet, or computer, which means you don't need any fancy tools to get started. You can also collab with guests around the world without them needing to lift a finger. It's pretty much made our lives hassle-free. Anchor also distributes your podcast across all major listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and so many more. You're actually listening to RPGaymer wherever you are because we put it on Anchor. It even tracks all kinds of analytics for you, so if you want to know who's listening, it can give you all kinds of data. If you're looking to level up your content, it really is everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. As a newer podcast, Anchor has made our lives so much easier. You have no idea. And best of all, it's totally free. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Okay, and we are back. We spent a lot of time just specifically talking about RPGs and job classes and whatnot, but I think especially in the past 10 years, maybe even longer, we're starting to see even non-RPGs or games that are starting to get RPG elements that I still wouldn't consider RPGs get things like jobs and classes and whatnot. How are they different? Like what are these games and how are they different?
Games like multiplayer in general, as we know, have this has flourished massively in the space. And I wrote Splatoon, but it's not just there. It's like Call of Duty. It's like Chivalry, the game where you go on and pick a knight.
Chivalry, what a shout out.
Yeah, no, yeah. You actually Chivalry is a great example because you are all dudes in armor, but it's but this one has a bow. And this one can do this one can throw an axe, and it's okay. but they are different, and it feels interesting to play them. I know when I've played it, I want the guy with the big sword because it's really easy and I don't have to aim, so I just pick that one. Okay.
Are you sure there's no complex or anything going on there?
That I'm interested. What does that mean? I'm so interested.
It's a penis thing.
Oh
my god.
Fair. Okay, yeah, no, absolutely, I'm overcompensating. That's not even a joke. See, I didn't read the joke because it wasn't a joke. It was just my lived reality. Now,
oh damn,
self burn.
Yeah, I'm sorry. But multiplayer games like that love roping people in to those roles, like the medic, the whatever, this and that and the other thing. I guess because I'm gonna just tie it back to the human psychology thing. Maybe there's a more thorough answer somewhere else, though. Either way.
Oh, yeah.
My discussion for myself when I was researching it also went to multiplayer games, especially team-based games. Everyone knows I'm a fan of Overwatch, so that's a big one there. But you get slotted into literally 3 roles as you come in, where are you going to go? And then in those roles, it really is like you said, KBash, this guy has a gun, but this guy has a bow. How will that help your team? And then you are doing some things in other games. You mentioned Splatoon, which is a great option too, where you already have roles, so you know what's happening and what is an RPG these days and what isn't. So games that can just bring in elements. If you watched a little plug here, if you watched our episode about our games of 2022, and I talked about Deep Rock Galactic, same idea. I wouldn't really call that an RPG, but you do level up, and I can be a scout class where I have a grappling hook, which is very useful utility. So would we count at that? But I think they just kind of leak their way into everything, and I'm here for it. But yeah,
at some point we're gonna have to do that discussion on what constitutes an RPG and what this blurring of genres, which is so awesome because I mean, why not take the best elements from all the genres and just build the perfect game? But I'm with you. I think of games like Borderlands, where I don't consider Borderlands an RPG, but it has a lot of RPG elements, because you have a loadout and whatnot. And we definitely see classes in that game. But even a game like Devil May Cry, starting with 3, there are you get 4 different playstyles in that game.
Oh yeah, that's a great point. What the heck? I didn't think.
And I mean, I was this is where I was really struggling with this topic. Whereas what are games that I have played where there is this class system? Because I don't play a lot of multiplayer games like that. But Devil May Cry, you really do have that whole playstyle thing, you have the dodgy one, you have the one that's very sword focused, you have the one that's very gun focused. I think that's cool, because how you might play the game isn't how I'm going to play the game, and yet we're all still playing as Dante when we play the game. So that really adds to it.
They celebrate players' unique expressions of creativity. I didn't even. That's like a whole new vector of like I'm congratulating the team because I love DMC, but like wow,
So, yeah.
Okay, maybe getting back to RPGs or non-RPGs, however you want to. Some of the job systems nowadays get pretty complicated, pretty sophisticated, and sometimes they're tied into entire character arcs and storylines. How do you feel about that? Because then you're kind of like playing this character arc or playing this thing, and maybe choices removed a little bit.
This is what really grinds my gears a lot. I get pretty heated about this because some games, the narrative revolves around the ability to change classes, and I really think that's a deficit. So we were talking about Final Fantasy V, and like I read a book that was written by someone from Kotaku about like Final Fantasy V and how it was so like pinnacle for its time. Which it is great, but when you have these games where you're so heavily relying on classes being changed, like Bravely Default 1 and 2 or Final Fantasy V, the narrative suffers. So you have this really great, tight gameplay mechanic of class changing, and then you don't have a narrative that is as strong. And I think sometimes the classes are also just so silly that they don't typically fit. Like they don't fit. Like it doesn't make sense. Like I'm fine. You see, it's like those silly classes. If you know,
like a mime or something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, mime's okay, but you have a serious narrative like Bravely Default or Final Fantasy V, but then you have classes that are painter or what was it in Bravely Default or Bravely Seconds, Patissier. Like
yeah.
Like
you make your pastries.
Yeah, like I don't all of a sudden I like that makes me just cringe so badly because all of a sudden you have this like it's like they don't care about the story anymore.
I was gonna say
so
sorry,
let me just clarify with Patrick. So like what you're getting at, to make sure I understand, it's more like the story is happening and then it's just hard to believe that like a cook is like doing all this. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
That's partly what I'm thinking, but also I really just feel in general that the more open you can develop your characters, the less tight the narrative is, because they have to keep the narrative so open that it fits what your character's roles are. And I think that's why Final Fantasy V probably has the worst, most bland characters, because
they kept it so plain so it fit everything in a sense.
Yeah, it really just fit everything. And then Bravely Default 2, like it was the second one. I'm just the characters are just so boring. Like I'm not excited about those characters at all. One is okay, but a lot of games that with these very broad class systems, the story is not the highlight, and I think that's unfortunate. I don't understand why we can't have like a highlight of a story and the highlight also being that like mechanic. But what do you guys think?
I want to drag FFT screaming into this specific topic because I have never failed. And that game, by the way, it's a Matsuno work. FFT is an incredible piece of video game artistry. I didn't recognize until much later, unfortunately. But to be very clear, I've only played as Ramza, the main character, as a punch monk every time I played that game. And he could leap like 10 squares up at a time. And I'm just like, this is a serious medieval work, etc. It's written Shakespearean in the PSP edition, and Buddy's just leaping up churches to beat dudes up on the top of the belfry or whatever. Like, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying there's a dissonance there. But this is like diminished sometimes in strategy or SRPGs in general, TRPGs, where the main characters sometimes are locked to it. Like in the FFTA games, most of the characters you recruit who are normal people have jobs that they can switch out of, but they're stuck with like those properties. I'm thinking of like, well, I'm trying to think of an example, but like they exist. There's the guy with the gun, for example, in FFT. And that's just his thing. But those games also are kind of carried by generics as well, because you have the opportunity.
Is that what it is?
Come again, sorry?
Is it Mustadio? What's his name?
Yes, Mustadio.
Yeah. Something like that, yeah.
But like, so those characters, I feel like the narrative can survive but I feel like it would help, I guess, if it were maybe curtailed in some cases. Because again, generics are so useful to those games anyway. They're the blank canvas. You can do anything with them. No one's going to complain. Anyway.
But after that point, like, how much do we see that character in the narrative? Like, we
True.
don't see, as soon as you recruit those characters, like officially recruit them, they're no longer in the narrative. Like Mustadio, Agrius, like once they're on your team, because you can lose them.
Yeah,
Technically,
that's
they
true.
can technically, they're no longer in the narrative, so it just suffers at that point. And then, you know, she's no longer a knight, or you could have changed her into a dancer, and if they try to keep her, there would be some stark contrast between your choices and what the game wants you to feel about this character. It's almost like in Dragon Quest 6 and 7 again, you have everyone's set equipment path, but everyone has their classes that they can be. So you can be a wizard, but depending on what character you have, they're still only like using short swords and shield and armor, because their equipment doesn't change with the class like it does in Final Fantasy. It's really just like a static, no, this is what this person uses. So it's almost like this character has an identity on what they can use, but it does not like align with what the classes are.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's just like, why is my wizard fighting with swords? Why, like, you're telling me this person should never be this based on what they can use? There's just something really missing in that.
I do want to defend, like, part of me wants to be like, the gaminess is epic, but like at the same time,
sure, of course.
But having a writing background, I do have to acknowledge the like unresolvable tension in that is so common to like, whenever the player is given a canvas to work with main characters, it can play with it too much, maybe. That's all.
It kind of reminds me of when I did the Fire Emblem episode, and we were talking about like what everyone likes about Fire Emblem and what they don't. And Mecca asked me, because I was like ripping some things hard about like how bad the stories are in some of the recent games, and Mecca was like, "Do you read the story every time you play?"
I listened to that today.
I mean, no, but I'm still gonna like, if gameplay is good but story is bad, story is still bad. Like I'll still pick up a game, and if I enjoy it, I enjoy it, and you can separate those things and still have a good time.
I did want to get back on something that Patrick mentioned. It made my mind think. I do wonder if we're going down the path here where we're eventually going to get to the point where narrative meets job class changes in game, and like it does do that. Like you mentioned, like if someone becomes a dancer, they're still in the story still revolves around that, and it adapts to the player. I'm thinking out loud, and I didn't play this game, but I watched my wife Laura play through the entire thing of Disco Elysium.
Okay.
You guys played that one?
No, but I've seen it.
It is like, I wouldn't call it a traditional RPG. There's no like battles and stuff, but like that game is a great example of a complete narrative that always adapts towards what you do, like every single step. And it's very, very specific. So much so that if you have things or don't have things based on your character's like psyche, stuff will or will not happen, or you get completely different scenarios. So like I'm thinking that story is there, and the developers took the time to make your decisions matter, and like maybe it's only a matter of time before that storytelling comes to, let's just say, Dragon Quest, and like it fits there. So then you see like, I don't know, Dragon Quest 11-2, and like there's a story about Sylvando and he changes to some other class, and like that happens, and you see it happen real time in the game. I think that would be an amazing future.
That would be an amazing. Well, I feel like it's going to be relegated.
Sylvando content.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh no. I have to play that game yet. I heard it's amazing. This is irrelevant. My bad.
No one can see my jaw drop. I'm sure everyone just heard my jaw drop. Oh, I might buy you this game and be like, this is your next video.
Oh, I don't have time.
I hope you have 110 hours.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, get ready.
I just blasted Xenoblade Chronicles all 4, and I'm like, I can't. I can't.
God, why?
It's the same game over and over.
Slightly prettier though.
I'm gonna have to talk about it, and people are gonna get really mad about it.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna be polite, mind you. I spin positive. Anyway.
Okay, let's get into the petty stuff. Because sometimes, like you're talking about, like just gamifying games and loving them for what they are. What are your favorite job classes in games? Like, what is a class that you see that just gets you so excited to play? Because for me, I get really excited when I get Red Mage Like even with my
Gross.
little opening for it, I like those like any role fitting classes, because I kind of feel like that reflects me. And I like blue mages and that kind of class because I like the collection appeal of this like unique off-brand mage. I just feel like it's really neat. But what about you guys? Like if you had to boil down to base classes, what are some of your faves?
I do like magic, but I feel like I would tend to go to a non-magic class, and I like range. So like a caster, for example, is great, but like a someone with a bow or like a long range attack is always really fun. And then on the complete opposite spectrum, I like random shit. So like when there is a game that has something completely off key, like I mentioned before for tactics, the original tactics, you can get the arithmetician or calculator, whatever they call it.
Mhm.
That is absurd, and that's like what I live for. So it's super duper fun. And then anything else that is like would never be viable in like a regular game, like if you're, for example, like a cook or a chef, like I think that is hilarious. And so I want that to be like my party of this ironclad paladin and this amazing like elven archer, and then there's John the cook in the back. Like that would just be that's the best.
I mean,
I
I've
hate
always
you for
loved
that.
like of course, like the assassin slash like fighter types, anyone who hits hard, like really hard. But I'm growing up
The
a bit.
edgelords.
Yeah.
Edgelords, yeah.
But as I've gotten older,
The bigger the hair, the better.
yes. Oh, gee. And I think like the thing that I'm focusing on now, like the artisanal classes, I'm thinking of like TRPGs mostly or SRPGs because those are the games where I like get to the most, wiggle room to play with. But like anything that can interact with the actual environment is like so ascended because we don't get a lot of classes are just like do damage directly to the individual that you're facing, or like power up the team, or heal, or whatever. But when you get to like the physical, like raw, interactive medium shit that you can't get, because like people just you can't do that in Final Fantasy. You can't throw like someone out of the arena because there is no arena. You're in a 2D plane, like where you're battling, or 3D, whatever. You know, there's literally a game called Gungnir by Sting, which no one's probably.
Yeah, Gungnir.
Yeah.
No, I know it.
And you can knock.
There's a PSP one.
Yeah, and you can just ring people out of the
Yeah.
That's crazy. I love that. Like I want more of that. And other things like knock them off cliffs and
brought
stuff.
into your tactical RPG.
Yeah. I want to talk about Sting at length here, like Knights of the Nightmare, but I don't think it's fitting. But I would.
That is a random take, like such a specific topic, but I'm here for it.
You did a video on that, right?
I've done a series. Admittedly, they're quite old, so the original one is kind of cringy. The second one's pretty cringy. The third one's still okay. And Gungnir's like it's me, but like higher pitched because I didn't know how to use my chest voice because I didn't do any vocal training at that point. But I have learned because I do singing sometimes, so I'm better now.
There you go.
Yeah.
What about you, Patrick? What do you think?
I hate you because you like those weird classes. And for me, it depends on the context. If we're talking about a game where like you can be a chef and you can do chef things, legit. Like I am so there for that.
Sure.
We both have played Fantasy Life, and you literally get to be a cook, and how you level up is by doing cook things. But if you're gonna tell me, because I want to talk about least favorites too, if you're gonna tell me that like we're taking this like patissier chef like in Bravely Second, or the Pictomancer in Bravely Default 2, or like these really cutesy classes with giant weapons, or booby babes classes, like I don't like that because it just doesn't like make sense to me. Like it just like
contextually it's kind of weird.
Yeah, contextually it's just so strange. Like you're throwing a piece of cake and it is casting a doom spell. And now, like what is this? But I mean, like again, if we're in context and it's like you can subclass as a chef and do like legit chef things, like I'm way there for that. What do you guys hate?
The
like,
demon hunter would throw in the curse into his like confection, and then like this is cursed icing.
I am a main class Dark Knight subclass painter. Like, okay, that's the edgiest thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
That's fantastic. I would play that immediately. That is like the class I would go with.
Go play Bravely Default 2. I'll give you my copy.
No, you're right about the verisimilitude like fading away, which only matters depending on the narrative, but
can you add a footnotes
audio
so our audience knows what that word means?
Oh,
so
sorry.
Understand verisimilitude.
Verisimilitude, like the likeness of what you're playing, like the believability of what you're experiencing. Peak Fiction, Not really, not necessarily. Sorry, that's
And that was today's audio footnote.
Yeah, and the more you know.
the more you know.
But
But
yeah,
you asked a question.
What do you hate? What do you hate? Tell me.
What you hate?
Literally, what I hate the most is like I'm going back to FFT because I'm sorry, the Dragoon and the Archer have some crimes to answer for, which is having all these abilities you can pump points into. Oh, +1 range, bro. +1 jump distance, bro. It sucks. Like, I'm sorry. They actually have corrected that in fan patches. You can play like FFT like super version where it's like they fixed Archer or made it like more interesting a little bit. And Dragoon
so
as
you
well.
just don't like how they did Dragoon dirty, which I'm with you there because I'm a Dragoon stan, but they did Dragoon rude. Dirty.
Also, I was looking before this. I was looking up like class systems that change, and I want to bring them up later, like mid battle. And I'm thinking of like Final Fantasy X2 or whatever, where you can swap mid fight. But someone dropped Golden Sun, which was really interesting because I'm like, yeah, but you don't get to choose that. See, well, you do. But you like unload your Jin on someone and then your class is changed.
No one's planning that. No one's going to be like, okay, I'm going to use my 2 fire Jin. So now I have that full party heal spell.
So
like,
suddenly,
no one's thinking about that.
Suddenly you've lost
something new and that's appreciative.
When you lose your full party heal because you were mix mashing your Jin and then you screwed around with the setup.
It's game
over. Little annoying. Granted, Golden Sun's not terribly difficult. So I'm not gonna like say it's a problem. It's just like I was thinking about it.
Okay, if you're fighting against Citros and Minority, then it's a game over.
Yeah, right. I've never really been akin to liking job classes that would need to like learn things from other like enemies, like enemy skill classes or like blue. I think you said blue magic.
They're enemies.
Yeah, I can't do it, and I think it's because my mind is so much like, oh my god, I'm gonna miss it. Like I'm gonna miss the ability.
I want to talk about some of these games that we play that are really trying to be different. So we talk about how sometimes job systems get a little stale in these series. We have some games that are always trying to evolve and refine their formula. Do you guys have any of those games that stick out to you, which is like, yeah, I like what these guys are doing. They're doing a good job.
I really don't have good notes on this section, unfortunately. I wish I did. But I will say the ones that I'm looking at are Final Fantasy related with both X2 and 13.3, I believe. I'll let you swap classes mid-combat, which is really interesting. At least in X2, where it's like, I don't even know what to say.
The only interesting thing that anyone can ever say about Final Fantasy 13.
Fair. But it is kind of, I don't know. There's something about that. They're playing, because FF has always played with the formulas or played around with the mechanics a lot in very interesting ways, where like something like Dragon Quest has not as much. So I appreciate that they've at least taken those efforts. Not that that's a shot at Dragon Quest, by the way, but either way.
It's just different. It's very different. Yeah.
I would say, speaking of like different, it's a little bit older, and I don't know how much we would call it a job class system, but I do like Skyrim's approach. It's very different, and just like you attack and you level up physical, you attack, you level up axes, but it does kind of make sense. It's like really simplified. Anyone can get it, and it does allow you to kind of expand to a lot of stuff. And there's like 20 skill trees. It's like all over the place. So you could do a lot of things, and like it is pretty cool, but it is also like kind of not cool because you can't go down like a specific path if you want to see it. You have to like build it on your own.
Skyrim is Final Fantasy
I thought it was unique. Sorry, what?
Skyrim is Final Fantasy 2.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
but
actually
like
funny
better.
that you said that.
Yeah.
When we did our Final Fantasy episode, Jason was talking about how he hates the mechanic of the more you do something, the more it levels up. And he's like, that doesn't work for him. I was like, but Jason, you love Skyrim, and you could literally hear like his
okay. He's putting words in my mouth. That is what I said.
I'm gonna replay it. I gotta replay
it. Splice this in. It's really more like you shouldn't have to attack your own party. And Skyrim, 25 years later, did it way better.
Yeah.
I have 2 games that I think did a really good job of evolving the formula. For all the grief we gave to 3 Houses on our Fire Emblem episode, this is one of the things I was talking about where like job systems in context of the narrative is really good. So, you have Fire Emblem 3 Houses, these students that you're literally like teaching to become military students of a certain role. And
Mhm.
I like that idea of like, here, we're actually trying to immerse this experience in the narrative. Now I
Mhm.
know like there's a lot of wackadoo things going on, and it's not kind of the same as the other ones where you feel like characters are more distinct. But it's Persona Emblem. It fits. Like there is something to here that like really works for me. So I thought that was really cool. And I don't
Mhm.
always like openness. Like I actually like the older Fire Emblems or the GBA era Fire Emblems more because of the whole like distinct roles, especially Sacred Stones. But I mean, like that at least worked. The tightest game I've ever played though with class systems, and Jason, I know you've dabbled in this, is Etrian Odyssey.
Mhm.
That is what KBash you played. Is
I
that
meant to, but I never did.
they
Don't.
are that's one of my
They're
favorite
don't.
series ever.
You'll get too
They're
caught
they're
up.
they're really
No.
hard, yeah, and you'll
Yeah.
want to play all of them. But it is just like one of those really like tight job class experiences, and throughout the
I mean, like
series,
the entire game is like job class. That's like
it
all you.
really
That's
is.
like all it
It's
is.
it's
Yeah.
job class the RPG, and
Yeah.
like there's no real character personality. It really is just building your party and seeing what you can do with it. But they added subclassing to your main class to kind of
Mhm.
like supplement your build. Some of the classes that they introduce are really unique, like weird things that you have to do in order to do your abilities, like healers that when they cast healing spell, they heal at the beginning of the turn, and then it does a heal at the end of the turn too.
Mhm.
Or
Yeah.
like you see a lot of those, like I'm a tank but I only can exist in the back row. Like just like kind of weird ways of keeping old classes fresh, like thinking of them from a different angle, or like
It's I would almost say it's like coming full circle to this specific discussion here. Like that game just assumes you know what that means, and if
yeah.
you don't pick a
Yeah.
healer, like you are dead. Like it
Yeah.
just doesn't work that way. It's very unique.
That's fascinating. Huh.
Mhm.
It really is one of my favorite series, and like for a variety of reasons, like it's just really good. But I love what they do. I hope we get to see a resurgence of that, because once the 3DS died, like it kind of went with it. But okay, kind of back to our discussion earlier too on just like favorite classes and least favorite classes, and kind of what I was saying about with Etrian Odyssey, about how you have some of these weird roles that these classes play. What are some of these weird classes that you're seeing in gaming? Like Jason, you talked about the arithmetician in Final Fantasy Tactics. Like
Yeah.
that's a weird one, and like that is also a game breaking one. But like
Yes.
that is not something you'd commonly see. What are some of these other ones that you're like, that's weird, bro?
My other ones that I would say, I would probably go back to shout out Fantasy Life again, but it does kind of fit. But you can get really weird things like I think is it like lumberjack or like woodcutter or something. But like it strangely fits into the narrative where like that's that person's literal job in the city is to like get the wood to help everyone else. So it's kind of unique, but it's just funny that you could do that.
Well, and it serves a
And
purpose in that game, because, like, in order to get the resources to do the crafting, like, why
mhm,
not make someone, like you said, like, there are lumberjacks. There
right.
are fish. Like, well, are they called fishermen? Like, what are they called?
I think
Angler.
anglers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there
yeah.
are anglers. So it's just weird to think like you might go fight a monster and be that class, but you don't get experience for it. Like you
Right.
get it from the fishing and whatnot. So yeah, I agree with you. It's weird to see that, but like at least it fits.
Yeah, it fits. And there's some other just random ones in those games, but nothing else really stands out that we haven't talked about. Like Cook is really funny. People that are like, blah, blah, blah. Anyways,
So,
I'll leave it at that.
no, this one's weird not because it's weird functionally. It's weird because it's framed interesting to me. But I'm going back to Dragon Age Origins for this,
Mm,
where in the DLC, the Awakening DLC, you get a bunch more classes. But whatever, like duelist, warrior, whatever. There's like one called the Legionnaire Scout, which sounds like nothing, but it's like that's kind of wordy. And it's a class that literally only exists because of the lore. Like in any other game, it would just be guy in the mines with a knife, but because it or like but because
nice.
but because of this unique world context, it's like we had to fluff that up. We had to fluff it up. But I want to move out past that one because that's just a small little like aesthetic thing. The one that I love, because now I have the floor to talk about Sting again. Knights in the Nightmare
Mhm.
is the greatest masterwork of our times, and no one knows it, but that's okay.
Is that the one where you rap? Do you rap in that
No,
video?
that's
Okay.
Yggdra Union, and that one is
Okay.
a little weird, but similar notes. But Knights in the Nightmare is like a bullet hell SRPG kind of thing, but you don't control it directly. Those guys, move on a grid, but you don't like select to move. They do that on their own by attacking. So like all of your classes all move in different weird ways by attacking and attack in different line patterns. And it's insane. And it makes every class, because they're functionally built into this, you know, bullet hell sort of puzzly kind of game. Every class takes on a unique a role, even though you're not plugging points into them for like fireball or like cleave attack or whatever. They're just doing that on their own. And you come to respect every class because you have to play with all of them. It's awesome. That's all. I love it. I love Shinichi Ito and Sting so much. Anyway.
Weird classes.
I know.
So mine is like, they're all from a parody game. It's the Penny Arcade series. Like Penny Arcade did their RPGs on the Rain Slick Precipice of Darkness or something like.
Yeah.
But like the third one, they introduced a job system. And they dialed back their approach. It was very Final Fantasy. And you can have your characters have up to 3 classes in that game. It's so funny. Like you could basically like, you know, in Final Fantasy Tactics, it's 2. This is 3. And some of the classes are just the strange. Like its name alone would sell me. Because again, everything is a parody, so it's okay. But like they have Crabomancer, where like literally you fight a crab mage in order to get it. He's an offensive take. Hobo is a class. Dino Sorcerer, Delusionist instead of Illusionist, it's Delusionist. Like it's just all these really funny classes that like they're all weird in their approach, or you know, like the Hobo, one of his attacks is trash can fire. Like they really fit what the class is. It's like it's strange. Be like, yeah, I'm a sub hobo class, you know.
Yeah, I'm a hobo.
A hobo crab dancer.
That's right.
Okay, before we get away from it, I know we were talking about Etrian Odyssey, and one of the things I remember Patrick doing.
Oh no.
I think even in college was playing Etrian Odyssey, and even nowadays, and texting me like, hey, this is you in my game, and I've made you this mage, and like, you know, slotting people in because you can do that. But like, I remember you also saying it took you hours to make classes, and then you didn't know if it was right or correct. But you should elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah. So when Etrian Odyssey Nexus came out, which is like the pinnacle of the series, like it's kind of like they're rehashing all their old steps because they included a lot of old classes, and you get to go back to some of the old locales that you went to. It's like this multiverse of the Etrian game. There are 18 different classes that you can play in that game.
Damn.
And my husband Scott was like, oh, you got a new game, I'm so happy for you. And then he went and did his own thing for 2 hours, and then he came out and saw me on the couch, hunched over my phone in the fetal position with the Game Boy open, but I wasn't touching it. And he was like, what's going on? How's your game going? And I'm like, I haven't started yet. And he was like, what do you mean you haven't started yet? I can't, like, it is so hard for me to commit to a party because like you start to think of like, well, there's this tank, but then there's this tank, and this tank can heal, but this tank can attack. And then there's this healer, and this healer can do this. And then what if I don't have elemental damage? What if I don't have anyone who can do debuffs or status effects? And like trying to find the perfect party. And it doesn't become about the fun of the game anymore. And just like, who cares if you can't do these things? Like, just go. But I'm like, but I want to experience it all. I don't want to have to play it again. So literally, like, I get paralysis from these choices. And it's not even like I thought like, oh, but it's just games where you have full parties. No, it's not games where you have full parties. It's also games where you have a solo character. For example, Dark Souls and Demon Souls, where do I create my own issue by starting out as like the savage class or like whatever they name it, where you start out with like nothing but a club and like a blank slate of stats? Yes. However, I mean, like, if I pick the other classes, I wouldn't be able to decide because it's like, well, what if I want to do a rogue and try these things, but then I don't like it? I'm really bad. Now I can switch to this. It's just so much. It's literally so much. And if I'm with someone else, like when we were playing Divinity 2, Jason, I was like, hey, can you hurry up and pick your class? Because I can't pick mine until you pick yours, because I have to counter pick what you want to be.
And it took me like 4 seconds.
Yeah,
I'm like, yeah, that one.
You're like, that looks good. And I'm like,
that looks good. Yeah.
Jesus. Do you guys have that problem at all?
Yeah, I mean, I can't even get started in a Dark Souls game without picking the weapon I want to end up with, which is weird behavior,
Mm.
perhaps, but I do it anyway because it's like, I'm not wasting this playthrough. I'm gonna get what I want. And then you get it and you're like, it's okay. It's like
It's so backward, especially because like you wanna like I don't like having to look up Dark Souls and like the weapons and whatnot and like the end build because I just want to be able to enjoy the experience. But you're right, like
Mhm.
you have to build your character for the spells and the weapons you want to use. So you almost have to work your way backward. And like for games like Etrian, if you really want to do the super bosses, you're gonna have to have a reasonably correct party in order to do it. Not that there aren't like a lot of different options, there are, but like one of these has to be a correct party in order for you to win. And it sucks because it's like, well, I mean, like this has been my team the entire time. Why would I want to change it? But it's because you're gonna get boxed out completely.
that's so sad. When your own like knowledge you've earned and like gained isn't enough to actually triumph over the game's challenges because it's such a
Mhm.
mechanics game. It's like, oh, like I have to play ball now, you know?
No joke. I was gonna play Etrian 4 again because I'm like, I never really got to do the super or the extra dungeon, the super boss and whatnot in that game. And I
Mhm.
started to do the same thing where I spiraled when I was picking my classes. And that game has the fewest classes. You only start with 7, but you get 3 classes as you go through the game. And I decided that I wasn't going to play the game at all. And then
Oh
I
wow.
and then I went and talked to my therapist about it for 2 different sessions. Like
Dang.
that is how that is
Such a
how bad it was. So, what were you gonna say, Jason?
I was gonna ask it like, do both of you find that you like to read ahead to kind of see like what is the best build to like do that
yeah.
or not? Because I think for
KBash
my
is
I
nodding
see
and I'm shaking my head. I don't
yeah
like spoiling
I see
it.
different
Yeah,
things.
I
I
don't
think
like
for me
spoiling it. KBash was
yeah
like, yes, I do.
I just
yeah
don't I
for me
need to
it's like
know.
Patrick's example where I'm like yeah I just want to be that class and I just go and do it, but it sounds like it's not the case. So KBash, you need to elaborate.
I just have to know. Like I want to see what all the options are so I can weigh them and so I can pre-plan them. And I don't know if this is
Mhm.
because I played too much like Dragon Warrior Monsters as a kid or something. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like Dragon Warrior Monsters 2, yeah, you can like, oh yeah, you can get whatever you want. You can do all kinds of things because you have
Mhm.
to breed 2 monsters together. So it's like at the top, and then there's 2, and then there's 4, and then there's literally multiplying down to like 64 different things you have to catch throughout the game. And it's like that's for one of 3 monsters. I've been down this hole. So I don't want
I
to
feel
like
like were you a player's guide kid?
yes.
Like, did you?
Yeah.
So I think that's where some of this stems from because I don't play with players guides anymore unless
Oh,
like I'm stuck somewhere. But
yeah.
I grew up a player's guide kid. Like I had it for a lot of the early Final Fantasies. I had it for Phantasy Star 4,
Mm,
Earthbound, and like for me it was like, oh, I have to see everything because I have this guide that's showing me everything. And I
yeah,
think that
yeah
really gets logged in your brain of like now I
yeah.
have to build a party that can see everything or do everything.
Yeah.
but like and RPGs are unique in that like Bash was saying like you don't want to spend 80 hours doing this and then you don't see that part of it at the end. Whereas in like a fighting game, if you spend 80 hours in a fighting game, you've done every freaking thing that fighting game is going to show you. So maybe it's just a unique thing with RPGs in general. They just take that much time.
I
Fun
feel like I
IRL.
should just live stream myself building a party in Etrian Odyssey so people can see what it's like being me and have it like slowly deteriorating.
I just imagine the end of that stream is just Patrick, some clothes missing in a room, just rocking back and
Back and
forth.
forth in the corner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the
Oh my,
destruction everywhere.
the saddest thing.
All right. Well, thank you, KBash, for joining us here. We're going to take a quick break and we'll talk more about games. As we're taking this break, we do want to hear your thoughts over on Twitter and Instagram at HeyRPGaymer and over on our Discord. We love chatting about games over there. We'll be right back.
And we are back for our mid segment, What You Playin', where we talk about what we're playing, aptly named. Jason,
Yes.
why don't you so start us out? What are you playing right now, buddy?
Hey Jace, what you playing? I am currently playing through an older Diablo style game. It's called Chaosbane. It's from the Warhammer series.
Hmm.
I got it because I wanted another game to play with a few of our friends that are around here, and I mean, it's basically Diablo 3, but in the Warhammer universe. And it's very fast. Like everything happens super quick. There is a ton of enemies on the screen. Like if Diablo, a 4-player Diablo would throw like, I don't know, 10 or 20 enemies, like fodder enemies on screen, I feel like Chaos Bane is giving me like 40 or 50 at a time. And you just obliterate them. So it's very satisfying. It's a nice, brutal walking simulator where you just go and decimate your enemies. But games like that are, kind of superficial. Like it's fun for what it is. Numbers go up, and I love that. But like the story seems a little strange.
It's definitely
Presentation is
something you
fine.
play with friends, right? Like this,
Yeah.
like when we were playing Diablo 3 together on stream, like
Mhm.
we did that because it was funny and we had some funny moments, not because it was like a great experience.
Yeah. And I think if we play again next session, we're gonna amp up the difficulty a little bit too to give us some more challenge. But I mean, we are just kind of chatting, and like literally, I think at one point I was like eating a bagel as I'm like killing this demonic boss, but it was still fun, and so it was great. It's super old now. Okay, not super old. It's like 3 or 4 years old. So I think I got the game with the
That's
DLC.
super old.
Yeah, exactly. I was able to get the game with all DLC for like $6, and I'm like, for that price, play with my friends. It was a good one. So if you're looking for a Diablo clone, Chaosbane is a good choice.
Little side story for you, KBash. When we were playing Diablo 3, I was talking about how easy the game was, and it was me, my husband Scott, Jason,
I know where this is
and
going.
his spouse Laura. And when we were playing it, I'm like, Jason, this is so easy, and like we were on the hardest difficulty, and I'm like, this is still so easy, and he's like, I know
On the end boss
the
too.
next highest difficulty doesn't unlock until you beat the game, and I'm like, this is really annoying. And when we're at the final boss, I'm like, this is so stupidly easy. Can you guys stop attacking? I want to do this by myself. So everybody stops attacking, and I beat the final boss by myself, nobody doing anything, even though it was scaled to a 4-person party at the hardest difficulty.
His health got low, but
there was that one point where like I'm like, okay, I need to heal myself, but I still did it. It was just like, oh, why? Okay, anyways, KBash, what are you playing, bud?
I was just about to say RPGaymer not dodging the gamer allegations. But
exactly.
like as to what I'm playing, I have only exclusively played things for work in the past like 3 years or something, which is really embarrassing. So I've been playing Xenoblade Chronicles.
Man, right?
Yeah.
That's the grind. That's the grind, right? Like that's just the part. That's just the unfortunate part of it.
Yeah, but I've been playing Xenoblade Chronicles and Parasite Eve in conjunction. So my head is a mess of horror, mitochondria, time stuff, a lot of slow JRPG mechanics. Like Xenoblade Chronicles never ends. No offense. Especially when you play all 4 of them back to back with like some substitutes. It's like pretty painful. But they're fun games. And I have a lot of nice things to say, and I will provide them later. Not here though. At the KBash show. Anyway, Parasite Eve also. I was like most weirded out by Parasite Eve because like fans hate 3, and I was like, I'm having fun because like I like mechanical stuff. But then I got to the end, and like I watched the credits roll, and I was like, there's no way they published this. This is like, it's parody. Like what the fuck?
It's a lot of us were, I mean, I think Jay's included, were Parasite Eve stands, and I know some people were lost when 2 came out. I still stuck around because I thought 2 was a great entry, and then like
it was unique.
Once we saw 3, we were just like, it's done. They Square Enixed it.
So I'm a game collector and fan and whatnot, and I actually don't own Parasite Eve 3, and I am not missing out. Like it is not on my to buy list.
I don't blame you. Like it's a really weird experience. I can't recommend it to most people. I thought it was playable over like 2, because 2 is quite a buy-in if you're like not a hardcore gamer, and you have to go back and learn tank controls. But 2 is admittedly much more fun when you actually learn how it works, and then it's like this is awesome. Versus 3, where you're like chewing gravel by the end. So that's
what a statement.
I mean, I can't wait for like May or whenever I make that video. Anyway,
I'll be there.
Yeah, excited.
Patrick, what are you playing?
So in the vein of us doing the jobs and classes episode, I found an indie game which might be one of the best games I've played in a very long time called Crystal Project.
Hmm.
It's on Steam, and I get to play it on my lovely little Steam Deck. And basically, someone took like a Minecraft aesthetic, or like semi Minecraft, semi Octopath Traveler, because it kind of has that like HD 2D look to it.
Mm.
Um and it's Final Fantasy 5, like legitimately, and there's basically no story, but it's an open world turn-based RPG. There's a lot of
Huh.
nice platforming to it to like get around, and the job system is not something that makes me want to die. Everything has been like balanced really well. It's very accessible. I don't understand why people aren't talking about it enough, and I know people on Steam are. Like, this is a very, very well received game, but it like I haven't really put down my Steam Deck for anything else. I've been having a great time with it. So if you get the opportunity,
What's it
there,
called again?
Crystal Project. It
I'm looking it
doesn't
up
it
right now.
doesn't look like much, but oh my god, like this is and I think it's aside from the music, one guy made this game, and I think that's
Yeah.
like the new thing, because Stardew Valley was a
Yeah.
one man game. What else? There's some other like really cool hits that were just like one man game, and this isn't their one man game. Like, this game is stellar. So if you're an
This looks
RPGer,
great. Yeah.
it is
Mhm.
really, really good. Like, this is the Patrick RPGaymer seal of approval. Like, play this game, play it. It's good.
Legit.
Oh, it has all the
Thanks for the
Final
rec.
Fantasy classes and then some, and they're all very much so better developed. It's just cool. It's cool.
Alrighty, folks, we are back for our final segment of today's special episode with KBash and Patrick. We're still talking about jobs and classes in games, and we wanted to do another game, as we always do. And this time around, we are thinking about a new sort of job or class for games we haven't seen yet. So we tasked everyone here before the show to kind of think of some examples of completely new or original jobs that haven't been done, or at least as far as you know, haven't been done ever before in any type of game or RPG. And the job could be serious, it could be funny, it could be somewhere in between. We will present our job class idea to the other person, but then they will tell us what that job's like roles, skills, and like what it does. So I wrote an example so everyone can kind of understand what I'm saying. So example, if I was to say, "Hey KBash, you need to tell me about what the janitor class in RPGs would be," and then KBash might say something like, "Well, a janitor is good about cleaning weapons, so maybe their weapons that their skills can include like buffing a weapon to have higher stats, or they're proficient in like water-based skills because they use
Buffing,
like a mop."
because
Yeah,
they
see,
use
buffing.
floor buffers.
Exactly. It's a double entendre. So just kind of stuff like that, so we can have fun with it. Does that make sense for the two of you guys?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Ye-
And because we don't want to put our friendly neighborhood K-Bash on the spot, Jason is going to give me something to classify first.
Classify, yes. So I will go first. Give this to Patrick. I went an easy route, but I did kind of think that this might fit. But Patrick, I want you to describe to me what the English teacher role or job would be in
Oh,
any video game.
cool. So personally, I think if uh the teacher role had an elemental type, it would definitely be dark, because
Wow,
we're dead on the inside.
dead on the inside. I see.
It would definitely be oh, what kind of weapon would a teacher use? I feel like they would use lanyards and rulers.
One of
I
those big sticks that has a finger on the
Yeah, it
point,
would.
so you
I
can
think
point
it'd
to.
be like a meter stick, because I mean, like, I was constantly just twirling that sucker around all the time. The party role, I think, is pretty obvious. I think they would be some kind of support role. It's not really a big you know, DPS heavy class, because we have a lot of encourage and teach. So I feel like they'd offer a lot of bonuses, like, give extra experience points, or, like level up by 2 in the class, or in the battle, to give your characters the extra edge. What else would they do?
My mind is also thinking if this class summoned something, you would like wheel in the TV on the stand, or like drop an overhead projector on the enemy, something like that.
So I'm trying not to like base this off of me, but I think one of the coolest things I ever did was I read a chapter of To Kill a Mockingbird while doing a handstand.
Oh my god.
I mean, it was
Damn.
one of the like the 3-page chapters, and then like literally I did it for the class because I was very CrossFit at that point in my life. So I was kind of like, yeah, that's the teacher I was. So I feel like that's kind of the one of like the finishing moves right there. And I like everyone would just like after I do that, they would just like cheer, and then all their stats would go up by 100.
Your end game battle winning pose, you handstand and open a book and just
Open a
hold that
book.
until the player presses X. Yeah.
Okay. KBash, you have a pretty good example, or so you have a pretty good idea of how it works. You good?
I do.
You saw what I did for the teacher class, so now you are going to classify KBash, not you specifically, but your channel.
What?
Oh.
That's even harder. Well,
If his channel were a class,
Now
that's what
that
it
it's
is.
Yes,
not-
if your channel was a class.
Oh, God.
now that it's depersonalized from myself, I have to like be objective about this. The elemental type is floating dangerously between both like fire and ice. It's somewhere in there. The reason being, I shriek into the microphone like I peak the audio way too much. It's actually criminal. I get too heated. But I'm also like, I will do that and then shift into like, now we're going to talk about deep political import of Valkyrie Profile 2, because I do that. It's just what I do, because like I like flitting between analysis and whatever. So
Yeah, ebb and flow. Like you got to have a good balance. You don't want to be monotone the entire time.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
so I either get to be both, or there is some in between.
No
like,
one said you couldn't be two elements.
There you go.
maybe
You could be-
water,
you could be
because
everything.
then you're
Mhm.
fluid, right?
Mhm.
Think about that. And sorry, and it conducts.
Yeah, think about that.
If it had a weapon, my channel, I feel like it would be like fists, because like I literally intro my videos. Like, I mean, like gloves or like brass knuckles, because I literally intro my videos by shrieking almost every time. They're like, maybe even in the past, it was like the logo came down, it was like, and then like guitar riffs, and it's like really nostalgia critic era. Like
you need to hear it, Jason, because like it's the most early 90s thing you've ever like. KBash, you know YT, you grew up on YTV, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And you, what was the video game arcade top 10?
Oh my god, I don't know. I'm too old now.
But like that video game show, you know what I mean? Like that
Yes.
they always had the kids. Like it is like the most that. It's so good.
I can't help it. But I've since lost my theme song, but that's okay. Party roll? Party roll. I guess I have to put it in DPS because I'm not a support. You know, some people actually would call me support. Now, you know, I'm going to recast it as support DPS. Like, I'm obviously doing DPS, but it's to support the team. Like, all my damage goes to, like, healing the party. Or, like, all my damage doesn't actually do damage. The more I punch, it just adds stats to my allies or something. Because people will literally DM me, like, this stuff about, like, you helped me so much through dark times. And I'm like, I did not do that. I just screamed. But so, like, it's all happening behind me, but I'm in the fray. Do you know what I'm feeling? What I'm saying here?
Yes, I do know. I do know what you're saying.
Magical ability, I'm not actually sure what to even put there. I don't know if I have one. I suck up time. I'm a time vacuum because my stuff's getting way too long. So like I want to compare it to like the JoJo stand that like erases time, but I don't know if you're familiar with what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
Okay, like, at least we got one. The King Crimson, I think.
Yeah.
Passive skills. I don't. Because like I want to be like scum and be like raises your intellect, but like we all know,
No, it
that,
should.
like I'm like, first of all, I'm like at a bachelor's level at best, so like not really. It depends on who you are when you're entering the show. So like maybe so it's like a skill that greenlights. If you are like under that, maybe you might hear like me use a vocabulary and be like, whoa, vocabulary. That's it. That's it.
Vocabulary is a passive skill. Oh, it's so good.
Vocabulary.
Well played, sir.
I did it. I tried my hardest. That was hard. Jeez.
That was good. That was good. Oh, yeah.
Patrick throwing you the hard ones.
If you
here.
think that's hard, you should see what I have for Jason. But we're not there
my
yet.
God.
You have
Oh my
something
God.
for Jason now. So, KBash, what does Jason have to classify?
I feel like this one's way easier. and maybe won't be as fun.
Okay.
But maybe it will be.
I'm
Can
ready.
you give me can you classify?
Jason's not fun. He's not fun, so it's fun.
I'm not.
Okay, like unfunly classify the grave the grave digger. The man who must
Grave digger.
Yes.
Ooh, that's good.
That is good. I think that I feel like you'd want to go for like a dark type, but I'm thinking light, because I think this class will be someone that people see as like helping them move on like across the veil to like the next part of their not life but their journey.
Yeah.
I think that sure. I feel
No,
like
it's Xenoblade 3.
the weapon used is obviously the shovel,
Yeah.
but he can subclass with like a hand pick. So like kind of like Zidane doesn't start with like, you know, the big staff. He has the 2 daggers. So you know, you pick whatever you want. Party
You
roll.
pick whatever you want.
Pick whatever you want. I'm just full of the puns today. Your role or class for him. I feel like the Gravedigger. Oh, should the Gravedigger just actually be the big monster truck? Now that I think about it. No, we'll stick with this. So I think party role, they're going to be a tank. So they're going to stand at the front of like any game that has like a grid system or something, so that they can hopefully, because they're altruistic, like put themselves in the grave instead of their enemy or instead of their allies. But really, they're kind of like, I don't want to dig the grave for that guy, so I'd rather just die instead. And that's kind of the role they would fill there.
Oh, shit.
Your any like background info or magical abilities, you would think that they could like summon skeletons in a necromancer like way, but they don't. They actually just reanimate little tiny headstones. So the headstones come to life, and then based on the rune they etch in the headstone with said pickaxe or fork they use, they can cast magical spells and abilities that way.
Okay. I'm at the edge of my
passive
seat.
skills. His person's passive skill is called sweat, and they consistently smell a little off. So you're like, what is that? Like, is that me? And you check your own armpit, but it's not you. It's the Gravedigger in front of you, and that actually gives the enemies a debuff of -1 to all of their like sense skills. So they have like, they can't see as well because it's so pungent, and also because he's a little wet and slippery, they lose attack skills.
He's so wet.
Yeah,
So
yeah, exactly.
wet.
And that's obviously the Gravedigger in a nutshell.
All right.
That was fantastic. Bless.
Bless.
I'm just impressed.
Okay, and now it's
that
me
was
again?
round 1.
Okay.
So now we are reversing. So
Okay.
Jason, you are going to assign a class to KBash.
All right, KBash. Lining up with some of my
He's
fun
stretching. He's
classes.
getting ready.
Yes, get ready. Lining up with some of my fun classes I talked about in the podcast. I want you to describe to me what the barista class would be like.
Oh, this trauma! All the trauma. Have you been a barista before? Because I sure have.
Only if Tim Hortons counts. So technically,
Tim Hortons,
it
sure.
does.
Okay. I just didn't know much about coffee growing up because like Tim Hortons is so like not. Anyway, I'm more of coffee fanatic now.
I would
But-
do terrible things for a maple glaze right now, and I mean
Yes.
terrible things.
Terrible thing. No, elemental type. I'm giving it dark again, which I hate to, but because of dark coffee. Every
Dark
barista
roast,
knows
yeah.
the value. Because if they don't,
Also,
if-
dead inside.
Yeah, there you go.
there you go. From dealing with all the people.
Mhm.
If they have a weapon, is this like it has to be a fantasy weapon, I imagine, or does it not?
No.
But it can be it can be a giant one of those stoppers you put into a cup, like whatever you want.
This is honestly like the hardest part for me. I feel like I can fill out everything else. Because it's
What
like
if they use multiple weapons? Describe them all.
I just want them to fling drinks and burn people like in
I think
revenge.
that's legit. It's hot. The
But-
weapon is hot.
It's like the slosher from Splatoon. They just throw coffee at people.
Yeah,
I'm
like-
cool with that.
in a way I don't want to, because like the barista is very like much again like fitting into 2 spheres, one of like raw fury and rage and misery, but also like with the veneer of service. Like these people care
Mhm.
about at least in their job description about. So like maybe it should be like they should have that, but they should also have another weapon that's like something service related. I just don't know what it would be. Like a
Let me
folding
get my
table.
manager and then
Yeah.
do something magical.
Yeah, your manager there.
Oh my
so
God.
Jesus. But if they have a party role, I'm gonna assume obviously the answer is gonna be like support if it's in a provider role. But if it's not in a provider role, it's gonna be DPS. purely out of rage, and it can't be a tank
Rage.
because it's calling the manager to save it. So it's like it has to be in those two spheres.
He does.
Mm.
Logic.
Like, yeah, sorry, I'm just
This
like
is so,
logicking through it.
This is so well presented. I'm like really impressed.
I'll take it. But deep lore is a question. See, we have deep lore written with a question mark here because I'm not quite sure what the barista's deep lore is, because that's unique to every individual you see. If you end up as a barista, you are there for a reason, and the reason is to make money, generally. You know, I once interviewed for McDonald's when I came back from Korea and I needed a job, and the lady interviewing me was young, and she told me all she wanted to do was serve McDonald's. And I didn't believe that because that's a lie, but bless her regardless. So like the deep lore is like innate to the character, and you can only discover it once they're in your party after a very long series of social links or something. Like the personification.
They're the last person to open up, and it's like the 10th level of it. They're like, it's a lore dump.
I actually hate coffee.
Yeah. Coffee killed my grim.
Yeah, coffee reminds me of my dead father.
Exactly.
As for like, I'm going to skip the passive skills. Obviously, they caffeinate everybody and are extremely caffeinated. So they either add speed or add damage or both.
They can't be put to sleep.
Yeah. Or accuracy. Any of those dexterous skills, because like that's why we drink caffeine. Or
do they have a caffeine bar where like if you get in that perfect sweet spot,
the perfect brew,
that's beautiful.
Yeah, and, like, and they're good, but if they get too much, they're just like tank.
It's that French press meter.
That actually might be the magical ability where it's like, this is my special skill, and now you have to play a mini game in game to like get the perfect brew to like control the buff.
I'm there.
Oh my god.
I'm there.
Yeah, this sounds pretty sweet.
You just described a game I would buy in a heartbeat. Like I would do that.
Fair enough. I love it. Oh, do I have to give a roll to somebody? Do I?
Yeah, you got to give me one to me, son.
This one's not going to be as fun.
Who cares?
No, they're always fun.
They're always fun.
Maybe it will be. Can you classify the banker?
The banker.
Huh. Okay.
Like,
all right. So I feel like the banker would probably be an earth type because gold. Because money.
Oh yeah.
Weapon used. I know they don't use them, but I really feel like stamps. Because literally just go up and stamp someone, or credit cards. So they have like bash damage with this stamp, or they give like little papery cuts with the cards. So they could do like a bleed status effect, or if they stamp someone, it's like a debuff, for several turns. Whatever the stamp is.
You've got bad credit, and you just bam on your head.
I feel like their role is kind of twofold. I feel like they're debuffer, kind of for the reasons that I've said, but then they're also like that one class in a lot of RPGs that gets a lot of money. Like obviously they're getting a lot of extra money. So like they have passive skills like investment, and like you'd see they could roll some dice and like they could check the stock market and whatnot too and see how things were going. It would be kind of like Setzer's slots in Final Fantasy VI, and how like you could get like some good success, but then if you get like what is it, the 3 gargoyles or whatever, you just like crash the stock market.
The down arrow happens 3 times in a row.
Yeah, literally. Or like when Kate Sith completely kills the full party in Final Fantasy VII. Deep lore. I feel like the banker was once human. However, now they are just basically some sub-ho for the devil. So they're not necessarily like a good class. They're not really helping out. If you're playing the evil team, you chose like the dark path. That's the only way to recruit the banker.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, they're not afraid to take money for you. However, they're really good about getting discounts at stores. I feel like that's another passive ability.
Oh yeah.
And then obviously one of their attack skills, a la Final Fantasy, is money toss. Like it's there. It has to be there, right?
It's the familiarity.
Nobody
of the role
uses
that
change anymore aside from the banker, and he's about to end your life.
That's actually like fantastic. A real ass thing. That's what I love about that. Like pennies don't exist anymore. Taste my wrath.
It's grounded in too much realism. It hits home.
One of my favorite fantasy series, they use money to attack people. Mistborn, where like literally they can push and pull metals, and like they use coins to attack each other. So Very that. Very, very that. Okay, that's the banker. Jason, you're gonna take it on home.
Oh my god.
I hope you're ready. Like
My hands are sweating. I'm like nervous.
They really should be sweating. Jason,
God.
you need to classify College Patrick.
God. I thought it was gonna be something like toilet related.
No, I didn't want to take it dirty. I wanted you to have to, I wanted you to have to work for this one.
Work for it.
So
College Patrick.
not current Patrick, not 5 years ago Patrick, College Patrick. Chaotic,
Oh my God.
chaotic evil Patrick.
Yeah, I was just yeah. Chaotic evil is a good way to start.
I was chaotic good.
Yeah, okay. Chaotic evil is like monster. Okay. Wow, where is this even gonna? Where would we start with this?
Please do some of our deep lore quotes and situations that have happened.
Yeah. Okay.
us.
Okay. I'll keep to our structure here. Elemental style. Wow.
I'm smiling really cute right now.
You're pretty nice and good. So let's go with like I don't know. We can go with a water-based type just because I think you enjoyed coffees and teas and whatnot.
Jason,
and
I've never drank coffee in my life.
You've enjoyed teas and whatnot.
Okay.
And that's fine. Weapons used. I think that College Patrick's main weapon would honestly probably just be his butt. So it would all be a variety of fart attacks or sitting attacks, which I feel like you would probably agree with.
Yes.
Yes.
That's the laughter.
Yes. Party roll.
Some people are airbenders. I am a fart bender.
Oh my!
I mean, that is air in a sense.
So maybe I should have been an air side.
Yeah, you should be airbender. Yeah, maybe elemental style should be air. That's probably better.
Okay.
Party roll. I feel like I'm getting like supportive like Sylvando vibes, like maybe not fully understand what's happening because he doesn't open up to everyone, but like wants to be supportive of everyone else. So is very good at like leading a team forward, but also letting folks grow and like flourish. So that's good. And as you learn more, as you learn more, like there's some, some drama in the background you have to deal with. Deep lore. Oh my God. So I think this would be a little bit of reaching out for connection and wanting to have someone that like just understands and like is supportive. And then this would likely be done in just being a good friend, like someone that wants to like help out and is like, I'm not into going to parties, but like if you are, I'll go with you. So it's kind of like having that best bud sort of feeling, like you're like maybe actually College Patrick would be the protagonist's first recruitable character in the party because you're like there the whole time. Okay, magical abilities. This is what
the
I got.
The funny thing is, you think you're the protagonist.
Yeah, I am the protagonist. So we talked about the fart skills. There's an entire skill tree, and kind of like in Skyrim, how like when you're taking the archery skill tree, it's shaped like a bow and arrow. So in this flatulent skill tree, it's just a butt shape with a little classical poof cloud coming out.
Yes.
Yes, and you get more stats like they become more toxic. So you do like sludge damage, for example, things like that. And then passive skills. Passive skills, you know what? I feel like passively, as much as I hate it, I think College Patrick would have some sort of enemy skill or blue magic ability where he would pick up and learn from others. So like if we were playing a board game and he would also learn the board game, or like D&D and he'd learn that. So if enemies do things and he's like, that sounds like fun, or I want to be supportive, he would learn those skills too. He would never be as good as me. I mean, never be as good as the protagonist, but he would learn the skills along the way. And I think in a nutshell, that's where it is. Oh, and then the deep lore too.
Move be?
The finishing move, like what do you mean?
Do you know what I'm referring to? The one time we got super
drunk. Yeah, I think if you give College Patrick too many like potions or elixirs, too many drinks, then eventually he goes berserk. He gets a berserk phase, and he might attack his own team members. And during this time, it's no longer flatulence. It's just fists and slaps. Across the face. And it does massive damage. And then he feels bad for decades. And that's KBash is like, what did I walk into? I have no idea what this is.
First, I was like, this is going to be funny. And then it was like really sweet. but there were farts, and then there was like assault.
Yeah.
Context.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was assault.
Context. Once, so people don't think I'm a violent person. One time, Jason and I went out and had a very bromantic drunk night, and then in our fraternity office, we were getting a little too rowdy. So he told me that he was going to write me up because we were RAs, and he was just joking. So I turned around to him and I said, "I will fight you," and I full on slapped him across the face.
I was so mad.
I mean, then you give me a piggyback ride home. Everything was good. But yeah, so
sure. I didn't want to, but I did.
All right, that is the game that we played called. We want to call it Now Hiring, or should we call it
Yeah, I guess we called it Now Hiring. I don't know if we said it was a game.
Or was it
Now Hiring.
Classify. Either one's good. They're both
Either
good.
one.
That was fun.
That was
fun.
That was a good old time. Okay, before we wrap up the episode, I want to say a super big thank you to KBash for being here. This was a super special episode because of you. I feel like everybody got their IQ raised because of all the things that you said. So definitely write about those passive abilities and skills that you were talking about. Yeah, and I hope maybe we can see you again. We'd love to have you. This was super great. Where can our listeners find you, my friend?
First off, I had fun. Thank you so much for having me on. I can be found at youtube.com/KBash or twitter.com/ I think it's KBash Show, because someone took my name, because I think it's a pretty common Middle Eastern last name, actually. Oops.
Oh, wow.
Branding fail, but that's okay. You will find me when you see my weird 3-part thumbnails that I never let go of on YouTube with silhouettes. That's it.
Branding.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Once again, thank you, KBash. It was so fun. And thank you, listeners, for joining us this entire time talking about jobs and classes. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Like I said before, please follow us and join the conversation on Twitter and Instagram at RPGaymer. We love talking to you there and hearing your thoughts. And if you want to chat about all kinds of games and all kinds of fun stuff with other like-minded folks, we do have our Discord channel. You can join and chat there. And if you'd like to support our show, we do appreciate that as well. We are on Patreon at patreon.com/RPGaymer.
If you enjoyed listening to us today, be on the lookout for our next podcast of the worst game you've ever played coming up in 2 weeks. We again want to thank KBash for being here. We had such a great time. Now go out there and get gaming.